What makes a horror movie scary? Is it the appearance of the killer? Is it the dread-inducing atmosphere? The graphicness of the violence? Or is it something more, something real? In recent years, the horror genre has relied on tropes that, in the short term, accomplish its goal of scaring, or rather startling, the audience, such as relying on cheap jump scares that, while they are likely to give someone a heart attack, they will ultimately wear off and be forgotten in mere seconds. The other trope that should go away in the genre is the overly graphic, gory, often torturous ultraviolence. Looking at you, Saw. Instead of scaring its audience, it makes them want to throw up. Let's look at some of the movies considered to be the scariest of all time. More specifically, the elements in said movies that make them scary to the audience. Before the Halloween franchise became a constantly resetting mess of confusing sequels and character development that went nowhere, we had the original two Halloween movies. 15 years after killing his sister, Michael Myers escaped from the mental hospital holding him to start killing and stalking more people in his hometown. Myers was pursued by his psychologist, Dr. Loomis, who tried to warn the townspeople of what was going on. Halloween was considered to be one of the scariest movies of all time. But why? It's because of the simplicity of it. The original Halloween was more about a bad guy who stalks people rather than some supernatural killer who kills everyone in his path. There was an intense feeling of dread in the audience watching Myers stalk the citizens of Haddonfield, Illinois, wondering which pedestrians Michael was interested in killing. Because some people he killed, some people he didn't. On top of that, Myers was not supernatural. Just a normal guy who may or may not want to kill you. Jaws came out in 1975 and was about a big shark that attacked swimmers off the coast of Amnesty Island, Massachusetts, and later the battle between the men sent to kill it. Why is Jaws scary? Jaws had a much better reception in the scare department than a film like, say, Sharknado, or anything else produced by sci-fi for that matter. Unlike the Monster Animals and literally every other When Animals Attack movie, Jaws was not a genetically altered cross-species mutated monster with frickin' laser beams. Jaws was just an ordinary great white shark, albeit a little bigger than usual, but still a normal shark nonetheless, ready to make beachgoers think twice about taking a swim in the ocean.
Moving on. The Exorcist is considered by many to be the scariest horror movie to date. The Exorcist follows two Catholic priests in their battle to cast out a powerful demon out of a little girl. Many people believe the supernatural to some point or another, and the concept of being controlled by a malevolent entity is terrifying. And I know what you're thinking. You just said making the villain supernatural makes him less scary. And yes, I did say that. But in this context, the supernatural aspect fits well. An innocent girl being possessed by a malevolent entity, that is really close to the traditional sense of demonic activity, unlike a maniacal killer who just won't die. This next entry may not be quite as popular as the other ones on this list, but the movie I am speaking of is the 1992 classic Candyman. Candyman followed Helen, a grad student who was researching a particular urban legend. Long story short, she ended up accidentally summoning said urban legend and becoming one herself. The legend in question is that of the Candyman, a vengeful spirit that could be summoned by saying his name in the mirror 5 times. Our heroine in the movie summons the Candyman and is eventually taken by him. But first, the Candyman makes her lose her will to live, until she willingly gives herself up to him. He does this by hypnotizing her to kill people, until she loses everyone she cares about. But the thing that makes this scary, at least in my case, is the concept of being subliminally influenced into killing, only for you to come to your senses and see what you have done. Additionally, the novelty of the premise is that anyone can summon the Candyman, just as in the movie. Unlike a film like, say, Hellraiser, where the only way to summon the Cenobites in the movie is to open a totally fictitious puzzle box. But in this case, all you need is a mirror and the bravery to say Candyman 5 times. So easy. How many people after watching Candyman went home and wondered, should I try it and see what happens? In a way, this scenario follows exactly what happened to Helen in the movie. She summoned him, not believing in him, and then the rest of the plot happened.
So far we have covered a slasher, a killer shark, and the paranormal. But these are still not the scariest movies ever made. I will argue that the scariest movies ever made are not even horror movies at all, but instead, true crime movies. Especially the ones based off of real people, whether it's BTK, Gacy, Bundy, Dahmer. With these types of movies, the killer, the monster, is just a normal dude, often just a quiet, seemingly upstanding citizen. The guy that you would invite over for your 4th of July barbecue. But if he's interested and he lures you into his house, alone, he suddenly changes into the monster he truly is. Sure, the silent type with the mask is creepy, and encountering a demon would be terrifying, and feeling something touch you while you're swimming would be fearful. But honestly speaking, who has ever seen a guy walking around with a mask? Okay, COVID doesn't count. And being that we live in a landlocked state, unless the sharks learn how to walk on land and make it 1,000 miles inland, I don't think there'll be much of a problem. Everyone has a neighbor. That seemingly nice guy you talk to at work, that guy, that normal guy. After seeing a movie like Psycho, the one you see the Norman Bates depicted in those films and wonder, is that seemingly nice guy you know really a psychopath? The viewer will always carry a feeling of paranoia and subtle mistrust to everyone he knows, because the real person in the movies just seemed okay. It wasn't until the end, and it was too late to escape. So in conclusion, if the goal of the filmmakers is to truly frighten their audience, he would be much more likely to succeed if he keeps the evil element of the film grounded in reality, as well as focusing on that real element rather than just the graphic violence. Although Jaws, Exorcist, Halloween, and many other movies do include content that would most likely make you want to look away, the violence itself is not what made the movie. It was the killer, and how someone like him could emerge in the real world.